This is Scott Spears, and coming up here in Classic Championship Wrestling on February the 8th in Marion, Ohio, we have an extravaganza of epic proportions. It is Valentine Violence with a 7 p.m. start time at the Steve Hogg Rec Center located at 775 North Main Street. It is a big double main event. The night after the Olympics start, we have the Russian Brute reuniting with his manager after 30 years, Ox Baker, representing Russia, to take on probably the most popular Russian athlete of all time, Nikolai Volkov. Flag match, Nikolai represents U.S., the Brute and Ox represent Russia. In the middle of that whole melee, special guest referee, former Ohio State athlete, Big Satch Solinger. On the other half of that big double main event, I'm going to tell you about that actually in just a second because I got to bring in the guy right now on the other end of the line who plays a big part in each parts of these double main event. He is, it pains me to say this, our world champion, Classic Championship Wrestling world champion, coming back on February the 8th, Mr. Fantastic, Ox Baker. Ox, how you doing?
Well, me and the Russian Brute are really excited. You left out a few things, but I'll bring them up. You know, February 8th, you're going to see the Russian Brute, Ox Baker, in a manager role, and I can tell you it's going to be a treat of a lifetime. This Russian Brute says he's ready. He says he knows I hate the Russian second most in all of wrestling, and he wants to do a real good favor with me and drive him into the mat in the side of that ring. And I'm going to be managing that night. And again, I want to emphasize, if Ox Baker interferes any way, shape, or form, his man automatically loses. I said the second most hated guy. Another guy that Scott didn't bring up, Larry Zbyszko.
Well, you know, Ox, I want to get to that. I know you've had your people here, your spies in the office. And yes, Larry Zbyszko has been named Classic Championship Wrestling Commissioner. What do you think of that?
Well, you know, Larry Zbyszko was up in the AWA, and one of the great matches that the Brute had, he was the only man in history that I knew that beat Sergeant Slaughter right in the center of the ring. We was getting ready for a championship match, but Larry Zbyszko said that my Russian Brute didn't have enough credibility, and he bypassed him. And for years, I've hungered for that AWA belt because they're one of the few belts that I didn't win or one of my associates win. And Larry Zbyszko has kept that. And a couple times he even sent us a little note to me. He said, Ox, would you like to look at the belt for just a few minutes?
Well, Ox, I know it pains you. I can feel it, and I want to bring this up. I spoke with Commissioner Zbyszko last night, and he talked about that. He talked about how you tried to push that Russian Brute into a match with him, but he just couldn't cut the mustard. He wasn't up to Larry's standards. Larry retired from the AWA with that belt. He still has it in his possession. February the 8th, I don't know if you know this or not, he's bringing the AWA World title to Marion, Ohio, February the 8th, just to rub it in your face one more time.
You know, Larry, I remember you know, in Chicago, I knocked out Von Gunn, your son. We do the greatest house in the history of Chicago. And I wanted to do that in Minneapolis. But Larry Zbyszko stepped in again and said, no, I don't want you wrestling Greg Valentine. I don't want you to hurt Greg Valentine and Ox. You'll never, ever get a chance for that belt. He's held that over. He's called me. He wrote me letters, notes. He said, Ox, you just look at it for just a second because the belt is very valuable. And I don't know if you know, he claims that he's the last man to ever hold the AWA belt. You know, a lot of stars, a lot of legends. I can tell you, Mad Dog Vachon held that belt. The Destroyer held that belt. Dr. X had the Vern Gagne had it for 11 straight. Never give my man Russian Brute or me a chance to win that belt. Larry Zbyszko, I know you're a commissioner, but if you get into my way, I'm going to knock you down with your own belt. What about that?
Well, I would like to bring this up, Ox, because I know you haven't had a chance to hear the interview that I conducted with Commissioner Zbyszko last night, and I'm going to quote what he said, because you brought it up earlier on in the interview there. You say, if you interfere in any way, shape, or form, the brute's disqualified, and now you're saying, but if Zbyszko rubs that belt in your face, which I think he plans to do, you are going to take that belt and do some devious stuff. Well, this is what he said about you, and these are my words, not his. Forgive me, Ox. But he says if you try to interfere in that match, Larry Zbyszko's words, he'll give you one more ass whipping and put his foot up your wazoo that night.
You know, Larry Zbyszko over the years, if you check his records and mine, we never had one match because he avoided me worse than anybody in wrestling. Many times I've been challenging him. He said, Ox, you're not ready for me. You're not ready for this belt. You don't have the ability. He never gave me a chance. He wouldn't give my Russian Brute a chance. And now, Saturday, February 8th, when my Russian Brute steps in, I'm going to tell Zbyszko, when I get through with you, Zbyszko, you'll hand that belt over to me, so can I have, for a few minutes, be the AWA last heavyweight champion.
Let me get this on the table here, Ox. Are you saying that you want Larry Zbyszko to put the AWA belt up in that match, and if your Brute beats Nikolai Volkov, you and the Brute will be the last holders of the AWA belt?
My Brute, I want him to be the last. He's worked out so hard. He went down from 412 pounds to 385, and he's in fantastic shape. And he said this Nikolai Volkov avoided him also. If you check your records again, they never had one match against each other. They never had a match with me managing the Russian Brute. What a night, February 8th, you know. And I understand, as sneaky as you are, you're going to bring that Bobo Jr. some way or another down there. What do you intend to do with Bobo Jr.?
Well, we've got a lot to bring up with that, Ox. That's the whole other part of our big double main event. Now, I want to bring this up. Number one, Commissioner Zbyszko has sanctioned this, and because he feels you might interfere in that big flag match, standing in Nikolai Volkov's corner will be Bobo Brazil Jr.
What?
Exactly. Bobo Brazil Jr., the man who's looking for you, Ox, will be on the floor in Volkov's corner.
Scott, sneaky.
Well, you know what? That's the way it goes. And frankly, you're going to have Bobo on one side, and Zbyszko, who says if you try to get involved in this match, he's going to put his foot up your wall.
You missed out on a lot of matches. You don't want to miss this in February, because you're going to see my Russian Brute. You're going to see what he can do. And then, like I said, I do not have to interfere. He's in good shape, and this here, Volkov. I know it's been tough. He's had a lot of belts, but February 8th, he's going to lose big time. And who'd you say was his referee again? I heard you really proud of him.
Big Satch Sullinger, author, Ohio State legend. You're going to have trouble with that, Ox.
I'm a little bit trouble, because I do not want Larry Zbyszko to be the last AWA heavyweight. I want my Russian Brute to have that belt, the last man in history. You know, I still got my belt. I haven't had anybody challenge me yet, but I got a surprise for you when someone does challenge me, because Ox Baker is going to turn to Russian Brute. I'm going to turn him over. I said, I want you to really hurt this man February 8th. I want you to knock him down. And like I said, I am not going to interfere, Scott.
Well, we better hope you don't, because Larry Zbyszko is not a timid man, and I think he will put his foot up your wazoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better watch out.
I'm on the phone with a couple of other guys, good friends of mine. I'm going to tell you about it sooner or later, but Saturday, February 8th is what I'm looking for, my Russian Brute to get in that ring. And Larry Zbyszko, bring that belt. Because like you said, if I happen to get lucky and win, you will hand that over. My Russian Brute will be the last AWA champion of all time.
Well, let's bring up the other half here, Ox, because this is a big card. This is big. Bobo Brazil Jr. coming that night. He won Sure Classic Championship Wrestling World Title, and he's coming to the arena, the Hog Center, February the 8th, with Bobo Brazil Sr., his legendary father, who's no longer with us. He's bringing his boots, he's bringing his jacket, and he's there to challenge you for a later date for that title.
Bobo Jr. I'd have 2 wins over him. One more won't bother me at all. And bring your shoes. Bring your rope. We'll start a fire there. I'll have some shoes. If I happen to lose, I'd burn my shoes. What about that there?
That's a big revelation, Ox, and that match will be coming up in the near future, and that'll be an epic struggle. But Bobo that night, see, Ox, because we know you're sneaky, Larry knows it and I know it, Bobo Brazil, who is the current AWA United States Heavyweight Champion, said he wanted to wrestle that night. He's not just there to confront you and stand in Nikolai's corner, and he'll put that belt on the line. And Ox, you snuck in there, and you put your name on the line in representation of another one of your proteges, a Hall of Famer, part of that double main event, Bobo Brazil Jr. versus Greg the Hammer Valentine with you in his corner.
You know the guy that is almost as tough as I am, that he call him the Hammer because he drives that fist in so many bodies. He's got a great reputation, been a great friend of mine, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. And I'm going to give him a couple lessons how to win that match. Greg Valentine, I'm glad you're coming, because Marion, Ohio needs talent like that. They need the Brute. They need Ox Baker. They don't need Larry Zbyszko. They don't need Bobo Jr., right? I'm not even sure they need you there, Scott.
I think they might need me there. And frankly, Ox, I do want to bring this up.
What a card you have. That people, they got to come see that. What a match that's going to be.
That is going to be an epic match, because I'll tell you what, Bobo Brazil Jr. is at the height of his career, no doubt about it, and Greg the Hammer has stayed in tremendous shape.
I've never been so excited in years. I wish it was February 8th right now, but I'm going to be there, folks. Ox Baker is Russian Brute, and you're going to see one thing. You can bet on it, you can dream about it. At the end of that match, they're going to take the Russian Brute and raise his arm up in the air and say, what a winner. What a winner.
Well, and we've got to bring this up, too, because this is very important as far as I understand. Doing commentary that night, Ox Baker, you will be on one side of me doing commentary. On the other side, we've got Commissioner Zbyszko. You two don't like each other. I might need to increase my life insurance policy before February the 8th. Can you behave yourself at the announce table?
Like I said, I want to sit there. I want to announce their matches. I got some things to say. People need to see me, and they need to see my Russian Brute as a winner.
And you can deal with Zbyszko, who wants a piece of you.
Hey, if you put him at one end of the table, I'll stay at the other. I'll stay in my seat. I promise you that. I won't interfere in that. And you will see the Russian Brute arm raised up into the air.
Let's run this card down one more time, because I want people to have the...
And say my names.
Yeah, I know. Well, you've got an identity crisis now. You think you're a Soviet premier.
What's that?
I say you have an identity crisis now. You think you're a Soviet premier.
I can just see that the last AWA champion, you know, one of the great territories of all time, and Zbyszko has that belt, but February 8th, he might lose it.
Fans, the date is February the 8th. It's the Steve Hogg Rec Center, 775 North Main Street, right here in Marion. 7 p.m. start time, $8 a ticket. What a bargain. You can get your tickets at U.S. Gold, 1207 Mount Vernon Avenue, right next to Perkins here in Marion. There's going to be some autograph signings going on Friday and Saturday. Go to the classic...
I'm going to bring my cookbook. I'm going to bring my aprons. I'm going to bring my T-shirt, autograph picture, and folks... I'm your world champion. You need to buy my product, but you got to be there to watch my man get an arm raise.
And this is all going to happen February the 8th, and the double main event is this, folks. It's unheard of on any wrestling card in the Midwest in the last 30 years. The Russian Brute reunites with Ox Baker as his manager to represent Russia in a flag match against WWE Hall of Famer Nikolai Volkov. Bobo Brazil Jr. in his corner, Ohio State legend and author Satch Sullinger, special referee in that encounter. The other half of the big double main event, it's for the
Before you
AW...
say anything, I forgot to tell the folks, when you see me that night, I want to be known as Premier Oxbaker. I want you to say Premier Oxbaker, because that means I'm one of the best of all time.
Premier Oxbaker. Holy mackerel. And on the other half of that double main event, you're going to have the legend himself, the son of a legend, Bobo Brazil Jr., putting the AWA United States title on the line against a WWE Hall of Famer, a man that's held multiple titles in multiple federations. He is Greg the Hammer Valentine, standing in his...
He's a good friend of Oxbaker. I'll be cheering him all. I'll be sitting at the announcer table telling him how great he is.
Oxbaker in his corner, and to top it all off, who is commissioner that night? Who is going to be keeping tabs on everybody, especially this devious Oxbaker? The living legend himself, the last AWA world champion in all his glory.
Scott.
Oxbaker, I can't wait to see you. It's going to be an extravaganza.
And make sure you call me Premier Oxbaker.
Premier Oxbaker, oh Lord. We're going to have to take the building's roof off to get his head in.